License and registration, please.
Is that a problem, officer?
So where you headed?
Is that speeding too?
That's where you headed.
Look, I'm a retired police officer.
I know who you are, Tom.
The story opens with Tom as he begins explaining his past. About 8 years earlier, he had been working as a police officer, but he eventually walked away from that life and started his own crime scene cleaning business. He became extremely skilled at what he does, even developing powerful chemical solutions capable of removing every trace from even the most brutal crime scenes. As for his personal life, Tom lives with only one family member, his daughter. His wife passed away many years ago, and since then, he has been raising his daughter on his own. We then see Tom return home and spend some time with his daughter, Rose. She asks him how his day went, and Tom casually tells her it was good. Not long after, he goes to sleep. Soon, he receives a new job assignment, one that requires him to clean an entire house. When he arrives at the location, he finds the door locked, but there's a note explaining that the key has been hidden under a flower pot. Tom retrieves the key and enters the house, only to find it completely covered in bloodstains. He immediately pulls out his recorder and begins documenting the scene, describing in detail what likely happened there. He carefully photographs every part of the house, making sure all evidence is recorded before he starts working. After documenting everything, he begins the cleaning process, and after spending hours on the job, successfully restores the entire house to a spotless condition. When Tom gets back home, he finds his daughter waiting for him. She excitedly tells him that she prepared dinner using a recipe she found in her mother's old cookbook. She followed it carefully and made a meal just like her mother used to. But Tom barely reacts. Instead of engaging with her, he goes straight to take a shower. Afterward, the two sit down and eat together. During dinner, Rose mentions that she skipped school that day because she felt her teacher wasn't doing a good job. Tom immediately corrects her, telling her not to repeat that behavior and that she needs to attend school every day regardless of the situation. After that, he goes to bed without much conversation. The next morning, as Tom heads out for work, he reaches into his pocket and suddenly realizes he still has the key to the house he cleaned. It hits him that he forgot to return it. Without wasting any time, he gets into his car and drives back to the location. When he arrives, he finds a woman already inside, the homeowner, Anne. Tom tells her he came back because he forgot to leave the key the previous day. Confused, Anne asks him what key he's talking about and what exactly he did in her house. At that moment, Tom realizes something is seriously wrong. He quickly covers it up, saying there must have been a mistake and that he was probably sent to the wrong address. After that, he leaves immediately. Once back at his office, Tom begins digging into the situation himself. He soon discovers that the police never assigned him that job in the first place. Someone had used his services without authorization, and now he's in a dangerous position. By cleaning that house, he may have unknowingly erased evidence from an actual crime scene, making it appear as though he was involved in covering up a murder. Realizing the risk, Tom panics. He gathers all the evidence he had documented earlier and hides it carefully to protect himself. Shortly after, Tom gets a call from his friend Eddie. Tom asks him to meet up later that night for a drink, and Eddie agrees. Later, Tom returns home and spends some time with his daughter. Rose begins talking about her mother, mentioning how she used to take her to the theater often when she worked there, and how she grew up watching movies because of it. She also brings up a memory her mother shared about a trip to Mexico that Tom and his wife once took, adding that she was born 9 months after that. But Tom doesn't want to revisit those painful memories. Instead of continuing the conversation, he leaves and heads out to meet Eddie. While at the bar, Tom notices a news report playing on the television. It reveals that Anne's husband, John, has been reported missing. This immediately raises suspicion in Tom's mind. He begins connecting the dots, thinking that either Anne killed her husband or someone else did, and then used him to clean up the crime scene afterward. Wanting more information, Tom asks Eddie if he knows anything about John's case. Since Eddie is a police officer, he begins sharing details about the investigation. Not long after, the lead detective on the case, Jim, joins them and adds further insight. He explains that John once had a strong relationship with the police commissioner, but things had gone bad between them. John was also supposed to testify for the DEA, and right as the situation started escalating, he suddenly disappeared. After their conversation wraps up, they all begin heading out. Outside, heavy rain starts pouring down. Tom notices that Eddie is too drunk to get home safely, so he offers to drive him. After dropping Eddie off, Tom returns home, still processing everything he just learned. The next morning, Tom arrives at his office and is surprised to find Anne already waiting for him. She approaches him directly and asks what his cleaning business actually does. Tom begins explaining his work in a general way, but then Anne presses further and asks if he had worked in her house. Without hesitation, Tom lies, saying that he only takes official cases from the police and would never enter a home without authorization. Anne clearly doesn't believe him. As the tension builds, Tom shifts his explanation and eventually shuts the conversation down, telling her he's too busy to continue. With no other choice, Anne leaves and Tom returns to work. Later, Tom receives another job and heads to the location, but Eddie shows up there as well. While talking, Eddie reveals that the police searched John's apartment but didn't find anything except for traces of chemical substances, the same kind Tom uses in his cleaning work. He also points out that Tom had been asking a lot of questions about the case the night before. Sensing something is off, Eddie demands the truth. At that point, Tom decides to come clean. He explains that he received a message that appeared to be from the police instructing him to clean the house, so he went ahead and did it. But later, he realized the police never actually gave him that assignment. Eddie asks why he didn't report it immediately. Tom explains that the situation is too dangerous. If someone was capable of making John disappear, they could easily come after him too. He also believes there's corruption within the police, possibly even involving the commissioner, just like they discussed the night before. He doesn't want to risk speaking to the wrong person and ending up dead. Eddie then reminds him that he always documents everything before cleaning: photos, reports, evidence. Tom confirms that he still has all of it. Eddie advises him to keep it safe because it could be the only thing that protects him if things go wrong. Since Tom hasn't committed any recent crimes, having solid proof would help clear his name. During the conversation, Tom reveals something from his past. He admits that while he was in prison, he killed someone, and that he has taken lives for money before. Eddie, however, brushes it aside and tells him not to dwell on it, focusing instead on the situation they're dealing with now. Tom returns home and finds Rose clearly upset. She lashes out at him, complaining that he's never around and that she's always left by herself. Instead of comforting her, Tom snaps back, criticizing her for not doing her homework and for constantly dwelling on her mother. He tells her she needs to accept that her mother is gone. Rose responds bitterly, saying at least someone still remembers her. The comment hits Tom, but he shuts it down instead of addressing it. The next day, Anne is seen at a playground with children. She notices Tom sitting in his van watching from a distance, but the moment she spots him, he quickly drives away. Back at his office, Tom is met by Detective Jim and his partner. Jim explains that during their search of John's apartment, they found chemical traces, and since Tom specializes in chemicals, they want to compare samples. Tom calmly asks his secretary to bring out the records. During the conversation, Jim casually asks where Tom was on the day John disappeared, but Tom smoothly deflects the question without giving a direct answer. Afterward, Tom rushes to his van and retrieves the envelope containing all the evidence he had hidden from the crime scene, making sure to secure it somewhere safer. Later, we see Rose playing football while Tom and Eddie stand on the sidelines watching. As she plays, Tom and Eddie continue discussing the case. Tom asks for updates, and Eddie explains that the police still believe John is only missing, not dead. Because of that, the investigation is being handled as a missing persons case, and progress has been slow. Meanwhile, Rose makes an impressive play on the field, but Tom is too distracted by the conversation to even notice. This deeply upsets her. When they return home, she starts working on her school assignments. Tom comes in and asks about her homework, but Rose responds coldly. Out of nowhere, she asks him who killed her mother and what her name was. Tom hesitates, caught off guard, but eventually answers. He tells her name was Danielle. Rewrite. Not long after, Tom learns that Anne wants to meet him. The following day, the two of them arrange a secret meeting inside a church. Tom immediately asks if she's being followed or wearing a wire, and she assures him that she isn't. Anne then confronts him directly, saying she knows he was the one who cleaned her house and wants him to confirm it. Tom admits the truth and then asks her who sent him there. He explains that he's still trying to figure that out himself and that someone clearly set him up. He tells her that if they work together, they can uncover the truth much faster, and asks what John was planning to reveal in his testimony. Anne responds that she can't explain it directly, but she can show him. She tells him to come with her to her office. Once there, Anne reveals a major secret. John had been keeping a hidden ledger where he recorded the badge numbers of corrupt police officers. As Tom flips through the list, he's stunned to find his own former badge number written in it. Panic immediately sets in. He leaves and goes straight to Eddie, telling him everything. Eddie reacts quickly, warning him that the ledger needs to be destroyed. If it's discovered, all suspicion will fall on Tom. People will assume John was about to expose him, which would make it look like Tom had a motive to kill him. Trying to make sense of everything, Tom eventually returns to Anne and helps her with a small task. During their time together, Anne admits that she's afraid to be alone and needs a safe place to stay. Tom decides to take her to the home of an old acquaintance named Manuel. They share a meal together, and afterward, Tom and Anne sit outside and talk. Anne opens up about her past, revealing that she was once pregnant, but John didn't want the child, which ultimately led to her losing it. In return, Tom shares his own painful history. He explains that years ago, an intruder broke into his home and attempted to assault his wife. When she fought back, the man shot her, killing her. At the time, Rose was only 6 years old and witnessed everything. The trauma still affects her deeply to this day. Hearing this, Anne is visibly shaken and deeply saddened. After everything, Tom leaves for the night, but while driving, a corrupt police officer suddenly stops his van, attacks him, and beats him brutally. Even with his injuries, Tom manages to make it back home. When Rose sees his condition, she immediately rushes to help him and tries to treat his wounds. She keeps asking what happened and how he got hurt, but Tom refuses to answer. His silence only makes her more anxious, and she begins yelling at him out of fear and frustration. Eventually, Tom loses his patience and snaps, telling her that knowing the truth will only cause her more pain. Rose breaks down, admitting that she's scared the same thing that happened to her mother might happen to him too. In the middle of this emotional moment, Rose confesses something else. She admits she lied earlier. There was no school project. She had actually been going through Tom's old case files on her own. Tom reacts harshly, ordering her to put everything back. Angered by his response, Rose starts throwing things around the room in frustration. Realizing he can't calm her down, Tom leaves the house. The following day, Tom contacts Anne, who tells him she's been called to the morgue to identify a body. Tom immediately offers to go with her and heads there right away. At the morgue, Tom speaks privately with the medical examiner and learns a crucial detail. The doctor reveals that he personally knew John and was familiar with his medical records. According to him, John was completely sterile and incapable of having children. This revelation shocks Tom. If John couldn't father a child, then Anne's past pregnancy must have involved someone else. At that moment, Detective Jim enters the room, and Tom quickly pretends he has no connection to Anne. After she identifies John's belongings, they leave together, but Tom is already deep in thought, trying to piece together what this new information means. Tom immediately goes to Eddie and shares his new suspicion. He explains that he no longer trusts Anne and believes her secret lover is the one who killed John. According to his theory, John must have discovered the affair, confronted them, and was then murdered by the man she was involved with. After hearing this, Eddie reacts defensively and urges Tom to go straight to Detective Jim, tell him everything, and hand over all the evidence so the case can be closed. But Tom refuses, saying it's far too risky and that there's a strong chance he could end up being framed instead. As they continue talking, Eddie slips up and reveals details that make it obvious he knows Anne personally. Tom starts questioning him more carefully, and within seconds, everything clicks into place. Eddie is Anne's secret boyfriend. Shocked by the betrayal, Tom leaves immediately and rushes to Anne's house. When he arrives, he finds her packing her belongings, clearly preparing to run. He confronts her and demands answers. At first, she denies everything, but when Tom threatens to go to the police, she panics and calls Eddie, asking him about the house key. Eddie casually admits he threw it away, confirming Tom's suspicions completely. Realizing she's been exposed, Anne turns the tables and threatens Tom, warning that if he goes to the police, she'll implicate him too since he was the one who cleaned the crime scene. Tom responds coldly, saying he doesn't care, and walks out. His immediate priority becomes protecting his daughter, so he rushes home to get her to safety. But Rose refuses to leave. With time running out, Tom leaves again and goes to Detective Jim, subtly steering suspicion toward Eddie without directly exposing himself. Meanwhile, Eddie figures out what Tom is doing. He breaks into Tom's house and calls him, threatening to kill Rose if he doesn't return right away. Panicked, Tom races back home. As soon as he enters, he tells Rose to hide and immediately confronts Eddie. The two engage in a violent fight. During the struggle, Eddie finally confesses everything. He reveals that John forced Anne to have an abortion, destroying his dream of having a family with her. Consumed by anger, he killed John and then used Tom's cleaning service to erase all evidence without Tom realizing what he had done. Tom tells him the police are already on their way and tries to convince him to surrender, but Eddie refuses. He pulls out a gun and points it at Tom, saying Tom is the only person who can send him to prison. Just then, the sound of approaching police sirens fills the air. Realizing he's about to be caught, Eddie decides to kill Tom before it's over. But right before he can fire, a shot rings out. Eddie is struck in the head and dies instantly. It's then revealed that Rose fired the shot using Tom's spare gun, saving her father's life. Tom rushes to her, holds her, and gently takes the weapon from her hands as she trembles. Moments later, the police arrive. Tom hands over all the evidence he had been hiding, along with John's ledger. After reviewing everything, Detective Jim tells Tom that he was merely used as a pawn and assures him that his name will not appear anywhere in the official report. In the end, Tom is completely cleared of any wrongdoing. In the final scene, Tom's coworker is shown cleaning up the blood and damage inside Tom's own house, mirroring the work Tom used to do for others. And with that, the story comes to an end.